The Enrichment Center apologizes for this clearly broken test chamber.
The only thing you're testing is my patience.
If we were you, we would quit now.
You want us to quit? I'm surprised we didn't think to do that ourselves.
No one will blame you for giving up.
You know what? Maybe we should give up. Give up what? The hopes of there ever being a Portal 3! Hi, I'm Magic Cyborg and I'm a nerd who makes stuff. So it happened. It finally happened. The 10th Annual Game Awards. I am super excited to talk about it. It was actually quite eventful. I watched the Game Awards along with a watch party. It was held by the Games Club at my college, so thank you to everyone who set that up. It was a lot of fun. But before we begin, I want to be clear that I'm not going to cover everything. I'm just going to talk about the games and highlights that stuck out to me. Also, the stuff that I'm talking about is way out of order. I just jotted a bunch of stuff down that I remember from the Game Awards. And this probably goes without saying, but I'm going to spoil the hell out of the show, including what ended up winning Game of the Year. So if you haven't seen it yet, I have a link in the description to the Game Awards livestream. And now we can get on with the show. Just kidding, I wanted to give a thank you to This One Is For YouTube for suggesting that I sculpt GLaDOS. If you want to suggest a character for me to sculpt, feel free to leave a comment down below. Alright, now we can get on with the show. Starting with Slay the Spire 2. So for those of you who don't know, Slay the Spire is an indie turn-based sort of roguelike where your actions are based on a deck of cards. It really is one of those like classic indie games. The first game came out in 2017, if you can believe that, and now we are getting a sequel. Nice. Next up we have is Shadow Labyrinth. Which, wow, so I never would have expected that Pac-Man of all things would get a dark fantasy Metroidvania. Well, I actually don't know if this is a Metroidvania, but it sure looks like one. Regardless of what genre it is though, I want it in my library right now. It is stuff like this where it's just that out there creativity where you do something bold and completely different that I just adore. So if Pac-Man is going in a more mature direction, I'm here for it. Moving on to the next game, and this is where things get out of order. The next game I want to talk about is The Witcher 4, which is one of the more bigger announcements to the show, so naturally I'm going to talk about it. So my watch party went crazy when this came on, and rightfully so. The Witcher 3 won Game of the Year back in 2015. Now I haven't actually played any of the Witcher games, which I know, shame on me. But who knows, if this game gets as much praise as its predecessor, then we might talk. However, this is CD Projekt Red we're talking about here. The same guys who made the disastrous launch that is Cyberpunk 2077. So fingers crossed that they've learned their lesson. And now for the other big announcement that has 4 in the title, Borderlands 4. Look guys, it's the game based on the movie. Now I haven't played any of the Borderlands games. I know, again, shame on me, but the idea always sounded interesting to me. The idea where your weapons are randomly generated is pretty interesting. Also, I am a sucker for PvE first-person shooters. So like with Witcher 4, if it turns out good, then I might play it. Next up on the list is Elden Ring Night Rain. Honestly, I don't have too much to say on this, apart from the fact that I could not tell if this was another DLC or a standalone title when I first watched the trailer. But as it turns out, it is in fact a standalone game with a main focus on co-op. But something that I find funny is that it's possible for Elden Ring to get nominated for Game of the Year for a 3rd time. So moving on, I want to talk about one of the special guests that showed up at the Game Awards. I'm not talking about Snoop Dogg, I'm not talking about Harrison Ford, I'm talking about Statler and Waldorf. So it's a tradition with the Game Awards that they invite one character from the Muppets cast, and this year it's Statler and Waldorf. And they just did nothing but insult Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards. One of my favorite lines from them is something along the lines of, "This is just commercials with award interruptions," which is pretty accurate. I never actually thought of it that way. Oh, and they even addressed the fact that DLC got nominated for Game of the Year, which I did not expect them to do. So that's pretty much all I have on those guys. What do we have next? Oh, Split Fiction! Yes! Oh, Split Fiction looks awesome! So Split Fiction is the newest game from Hazelight, who created It Takes Two. And this game seems to have very similar gameplay to It Takes Two, which is awesome. But what really got me hooked actually was the story. You play as these two writers, one writes sci-fi while the other writes fantasy, and they go into these like simulations that are like recreations of the worlds they've created. But now the two worlds seem to have merged together, and now they're on a quest to take down the corporation who is plagiarizing their work, which is just mwah, dude. I cannot wait to play this game. I absolutely loved It Takes Two. And let me remind you that It Takes Two won Game of the Year back in 2021. What can I say? 3D platformers know how to get the job done. That was foreshadowing, by the way. Wow, talking about split fiction really put me in a good mood. Are you in a good mood? Well, I'm glad because I'm about to ruin it. Let's talk about the most sketchiest game that have came out of the Game Awards. I'm talking about Catly. Now, when I first saw this trailer, I didn't think anything of it. But after the show, I saw this video from Wasabi, which I recommend you go watch yourself. I have a link in the description. But basically, the video covers how the CEO of the company behind this project is some sort of crypto bro, and that his company tends to have an over-reliance on AI generative art. If you want more details, you can go watch Wasabi's video, but to sum it all up, it's quite possible that the Game Awards have promoted a crypto scam. Cool. So if I were you, I would probably stay far away from this game. But let's get back to the good vibes here. Obsidian, the studio behind Fallout New Vegas, has announced a new game. It's called The Outer Worlds 2. I've never heard of The Outer Worlds 1, but hey, I'm willing to get into this series because this game looks like a lot of fun. The game looks beautiful visually, and from the looks of it, the game will have a bit of humor, which is always great. So yeah, I'm pretty sold on this, and I want to play it. Moving along, pretty big news. So Team Ico, or at least the former head of Team Ico, who is now in charge of gen design, has announced a new project. So if you don't know, Team Ico was the studio behind Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian, and of course, Ico. Now, their most recent game was The Last Guardian, which came out all the way back in 2016. So it's good to see them back. Now, I will admit, I was a little pissed off that after such a long wait, we don't even get a title. But I will count my blessings here. It is amazing to see that the successor of Team Ico is here and it's going strong. Good luck to you guys. So the next game I wanted to talk about was Dying Light the Beast. Now, I've never played any of the Dying Light games, which once again, shame on me. But I do have a friend who is a pretty big fan of Dying Light, and I remember the premise sounding pretty interesting. I don't remember the specifics, but it does sound like a game that does not hold your hand, I will say that. But having seen the gameplay for The Beast, I like what I'm seeing. As someone who is a pretty big fan of Resident Evil, I could actually see myself enjoying this. Good luck to the development team. Alright, now we're approaching the end of the show, and to close things off before Game of the Year, we have two big final announcements. The first one being the sequel to Okami, which is a pretty big deal as the first game came out in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. Now, I don't have too much to say because I don't know much about Okami, which, again, shame on me for one final time. But I won't deny that this is a huge deal. I mean, 2006 was like, what, 18 years ago? That's a lot. That is a lot. I mean, this announcement was such a big deal that we got to see a performance from the Game Awards orchestra during the trailer. Which, by the way, I loved the orchestra's performance as always. Tremendous work. Now, you would think that pulling out the orchestra for this announcement that we waited 18 years for would probably make for a good finale, which, in hindsight, probably would have been better off as being the finale, as what came after wasn't that much better. The final announcement from the Game Awards 2024 was Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, and people weren't so happy about this trailer. My favorite part from the trailer was that we see this fun, colorful anime-style action cinematic. But then the camera pans into a dull, dark spaceship interior with a female character that looks like a man. Well done. But before we get too grumpy, allow me to turn your attention to Game of the Year. This is it, the moment we've all been waiting for. The Game of the Year for 2024 is... You probably already know the answer, but I'm going to make it all dramatic anyways. Astrobot! Congratulations on winning Game of the Year. The second I found out that Astrobot won, I had just jumped up from my chair in glee. I was so happy, dude. Because in a past video where I talked about the nominations, I implied that Astrobot was the one I was rooting for. But that was just me being optimistic. I didn't actually think it was going to win. What's also crazy is that Sony went from the disastrous flop that was Concord to now their mascot winning Game of the Year. What a roller coaster. I hope Astrobot winning Game of the Year will serve as a wake-up call, not just for Sony, but for the entire games industry as a whole. That what we want are games that just aim to be fun. So, that was the Game Awards. I want to thank Jeff Keighley as well as the orchestra and all of the Game Awards staff for putting together an amazing show as always. But before we end things off, there's something I want to tell you. This is the last Sculpt and Chat of 2024. And I will get back to making more of these videos starting January of 2025. I'm doing this for two reasons. One, I'm going to take a break for the holidays, and two, I want to try and put all of my focus into finishing one more video essay before the end of 2024. Wish me luck. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. Don't forget to leave a comment suggesting a character for me to sculpt or something you want me to talk about in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and happy holidays.